Our work. Go to rvgdigital.com.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to wdev@radiovermont.com.
The energy. The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133. The passion. The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure. The opinions on all your favorite teams. No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com. What's up, everybody? Happy Monday to you on the Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Full show tonight, all 90 minutes. We're up until 7 o'clock. We'll have high school hoops and Norwich hockey the rest of the week, but today we get a full 90 minutes. We got a ton to talk about. We'll talk about George Como's announcement. Speaking of Norwich hockey, we'll talk some more local sports. UVM hoops with a win over UMBC. Former Plattsburgh State hockey coach Bob Emery is going to stop by at 6:30. He was back in town this week coaching at Merrimack against UVM. So we do have a lot of local stuff, but of course we also have a lot of football. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026. It's your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. And you can also watch us every day live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and on my Twitter account, which is at WDEV Radio Brady.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go. The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber, Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I'll be honest with you. I am irritated today. Right? Had a great weekend. Watched a lot of football, watched a lot of college basketball, Celtics, Lakers on Saturday night. I should be in a great mood today, but I'm not. I am irritated. And I'm irritated because the Super Bowl is set. Okay, we've been doing this football thing for 4.5, 5 months, and we finally have gotten to this point. But we're not talking about games today, are we? We're not talking, for the most part, about the players on the field. We're not, for the most part, talking about the coaches. We are, again, talking about the officials. And I am so tired. I did not get into this business to talk about officials. I didn't get in it to talk about umpires. I didn't think this would be a fun career to talk about officials. I did not. I don't want to talk about line judges. I don't want to talk about camera angles. I didn't get into this business to talk about what a catch is. And here we are. The Super Bowl is set. We should be talking about the players on the field, and instead, we got people complaining about the officials. We got people thinking the NFL is rigged, and we do this every single week. And I am tired of it. I got into this business to talk about trades and free agency and hypotheticals and game recaps and the fun of sports, and asking the question, is the NFL rigged and did my team get hosed, are not part of that. Okay. I resent what's on this show sheet today. Okay. I resent this show sheet because I don't want to go there, but we have to. So let me just get a few things crystal clear before we start. One, NFL officials miss calls. NFL officials miss calls a lot. I wish they didn't, but they do. That's number one. Number two, the NFL could do a better job in its officiating situation. There's no doubt in my mind. They could make the officials full-time. They could get more training. They could implement a sky judge. They could allow more challenges. Whatever. There's a lot that could be done to help make NFL officiating better. That's true as well. But number three, and most importantly, okay, if you take nothing else from this show today, take this. stop telling me that the officials blew a game for X team. I do not want to hear it. Do not tell me that the officials lost the game for the Bengals or that the NFL is rigged for the Chiefs to win. I have no interest in that conversation because how many times have I told you this is a hill I am willing to die on in this business? Okay? I don't care if I'm the last man standing on this hill. I am willing to die on this hill. Officiating can absolutely impact a game, but officiating never, ever decides a game. And it did not decide yesterday's AFC title game. And if you are someone who thinks that it did, I'm sorry. I just think you're wrong. If you are a person out there that thinks that officiating decides a game 100%, I just think you're wrong. And Kay Adams, formerly of the NFL Network, who knows her stuff, she is one of those people that thinks the officials really hosed the Bengals yesterday.
And there's a lot for Bengals fans to be upset about this morning and validly upset about, or at least like, what is that? Where's the consistency? There's the redo. Oh my God, the redo of the 39. Has anybody ever seen that before? Has anybody ever seen a second? No, Jamar Chase was tweeting about it. Then there's the intentional grounding when it looked like, when there was a receiver in the area. Then there's the late hit on Osai, which was a late hit, but also a call the Bengals didn't get on the previous drive when Frank Clark of all people, hits Burrow well after he releases the ball. So
look, I think Frank Clark could have been called for a late hit on Joe Burrow. I do. And the rerun play on third down was clunky. That is all true. But you know what? The Bengals had every opportunity. They had every chance to win that game, and the Bengals didn't win the game. It wasn't that the officials took the game from them. The Bengals had plenty of chances and did not capitalize. This is always the case. Get your finger out of the official's face and point the finger at yourself or point it at your team. The Bengals lost themselves the game, and that is a fact. Yes, it's more fun to blame the officials. It's sexier to blame the officials. It hurts less when you blame the officials, but look inwards and blame yourself because that is where the game was decided. Okay? Let's just run through the facts. The officials didn't throw 2 interceptions yesterday. Joe Burrow did. Joe Burrow, who we all anointed as the golden one, as the next coming of Tom Brady, and we started running Brady and Burrow comparisons, and we did that just last week. Joe Burrow, the new golden boy in the NFL, he is the guy who threw 2 picks, not the officials. Joe Burrow threw a pick at the end of the first half. Joe Burrow threw a pick late in the fourth quarter, not the officials. The officials did not allow 5 sacks. Your patchwork and injured offensive line did. Joe Burrow was sacked at one point on 3 consecutive dropbacks. The officials didn't do that. The officials didn't allow Chris Jones to be an utter and complete game wrecker. Okay, your poor blocking did that. Your injury situation did that. Yes, there was that weird and clunky rerun third down play, but after that, the Bengals got a sack. They should have been off the field, but instead, Eli Apple blatantly held Marquez Valdez-Scantling. The official did not hold Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Ron Torbert didn't do it. Eli Apple did it. Okay, the redone play, that was weird, right? That was a clunky play. But the Bengals should have gotten out of it and didn't. They committed a blatant holding penalty. Not good. The officials did not have to kick 2 chip shot field goals in the first half. The Bengals did. What did we spend all year talking about with the Patriots, right? When you get down to the red zone, you need to convert into touchdowns. If you want to beat good teams, you need to get touchdowns. If you want to win on the road, you need to get touchdowns. And what did the Bengals do? The Bengals needed to kick a 23 and a 30-yard field goal in the first half. You want to beat the Chiefs in Kansas City? You want to beat Patrick Mahomes? You want to go back to the Super Bowl? You need 6, not 3. The Bengals win that game if they get those 2 touchdowns. They didn't. They kind of mishandled the clock at the end of the first half and found themselves with not enough time to run another play. They had to kick a field goal with 4 seconds left. Couldn't go for the touchdown. The referees did not allow a 29-yard punt return inside a minute to set up the game-winning Chiefs drive. Now, there may have been a block in the back on that. I can appreciate that. I thought there was a block in the back as well. But you know what? Kick the ball to the sideline, and we're not dealing with it. The Bengals could have taken the guesswork out of it if they just punt the ball out of bounds or to the sideline. Instead, they gave it to Sky Moore inside the numbers, and they allowed him to pick a lane and go. Similar to what the stupid Jets did when Marcus Jones returned a game-winning punt return for a touchdown for the Patriots. Okay, yes, the refs might have missed a call. What are the Bengals doing kicking it to him anyways? Kick it to the sideline, make him fair catch it, and let's play defense at the 20 instead of at midfield. It wasn't the refs who allowed the Chiefs to convert a 4th and 1 into a touchdown. It wasn't the refs that allowed a 3rd and 10 into a touchdown from Mahomes to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And it wasn't the refs who committed a blatant personal foul to give Mahomes 15 more yards with 8 seconds to play. It was clearly a late hit. The refs didn't do all that. So, yeah, I'm sure there was a missed call or two against the Bengals. I'm sure there was. But don't tell me that officials cost a team a game. They just don't. If the Bengals get touchdowns instead of field goals, they win. If they don't give up that punt return, if they kick it appropriately to the sideline, if they don't commit the personal foul, they have a chance to win. It's never on the officials, and stop telling me that it is. Okay? Joseph disagrees with me. He thinks it was a horribly officiated game, and the officials are the guys that blew it for Cincinnati. I disagree with you. He says, Brady, I usually agree with you, but not on this one. That's fine. I said I will be the last one on this hill if I have to. But you have got to look at a 360 macro view of these things. The officials can play an impact. The officials can influence something, or a call can have an impact without us sitting here saying the officials robbed us or Goodell's got the agenda. I'm not buying it. Okay, Saturday night, LeBron James got fouled at the end of the game, 100%. That call helped impact the Celtics' victory. Did that call cost the Lakers? I would say no. I would say Patrick Beverly. You had 5 more minutes of overtime to play after that call. Patrick Beverly immediately gets teed up. You start overtime down, and there you go. It's a bad call. The Celtics benefited from that bad call. But we played 48 minutes of basketball before that. Did that really decide the game? No, I don't think so. John in Moncton. Humans make mistakes. Referees are human. I'm not perfect. I don't expect the officials to be perfect. Players and coaches are not either. Texter says, how about body cams on the refs? Ha, ha, ha. That's a nice levity for the situation. Thank you. I hate this conversation. Every football Sunday, we come in here and someone wonders if the NFL is rigged, if the officials are against my team, and I'm tired of it. The Bengals had plenty of chances, and they didn't take advantage. Mahomes is playing on one leg. They can't get him to the ground. Why? Mahomes is out there playing with receivers we've never heard of because of injury, and they can't stop him. Marquez Valdez-Scantling's a cast-off from Green Bay, and Eli Apple's holding them all over the ballpark. Joe Burrow throws 2 picks. Those are the game. That accumulation of things is the game. It's not the officials, and it never is. Okay, unless the official is being paid off and he's on the take like Tim Donaghy, it's not on the officials, ever. People tell me, oh, Brady, the league is fixed, or the league wants this. Joe says it's very clear who the NFL wanted to win that game. Well, guess what? Joe Burrow is the new it boy for the league. Okay? Mahomes has already been to 2 Super Bowls. Don't you think the NFL would have loved to see Burrow in the Super Bowl? Hey, Burrow, he's good looking. He's going to be on the cover of Madden. We're all comparing him to Tom Brady. If the NFL was rigged, they probably would have loved to have Burrow in the Super Bowl. They didn't get it. If the NFL was rigged, wouldn't the Cowboys be in the NFC title game? They hadn't been there in 30 years. America's team would be playing for a Super Bowl more than once every 30 years if the NFL was rigged. If the NFL was rigged, wouldn't Tom Brady be back here? None of it has happened. Instead, we got Brock Purdy. Okay, Brock Purdy in the NFC title game. We got Geno Smith in the playoffs. You think the NFL is rigged? Because I don't. And no, I don't think professional sports are rigged in general. The other hill I'm willing to die on is don't ever tell me that one player cost your team the game either. This kid, Osai, who committed the roughing the passer penalty or the late hit penalty, I feel awful for this kid. 22 years old. He's going to wear that play now as a collar or a rope around his neck for his entire career. I feel awful for this kid. People are going to point at him and say he lost him the game. He didn't lose him the game. All the other things I just told you about lost the Bengals the game. It was clearly a penalty. He knows it was a penalty, but it didn't cost the Bengals the game either. More texts, 802-585-3026. Lou and Barton. Brady, I don't necessarily disagree with you, but you don't ever complain about the officials? Lou, I'm a fan. I complain about missed calls too. I complain about missed calls all the time, but that's in a moment. Okay, that's in a moment. When a game is over and I've had a chance to digest, I never blame the officials. You know I'm a Mariners fan, right? Mariners got swept in the playoffs by the Astros, who I hate. I'm sure somewhere in there, the Mariners there was a missed call that went against the Mariners. A strike that should have been called a ball that should have been called a strike. And I was probably mad about it. But when the game ends or when the series ends, you realize they didn't lose because of that. They lost because they couldn't get Yordan Alvarez out and because they went scoreless for 18 innings in game 3. That's why they lost. Because they couldn't hit. Patriots lose to the Vikings, and there were some tough calls. Right? The Hunter Henry catch against the Vikings on Thanksgiving night, I thought was a touchdown. But you don't commit a million penalties. You don't allow Kirk Cousins to throw it all over the yard. You don't fumble. You don't mismanage timeouts. You can still win the game. I don't ever blame the officials. Marvin over in Newfane. Brady, come on. You really don't think pro sports are rigged? I don't think that pro sports are rigged by the league, right? Individuals can rig events. That's true. We've seen that with Tim Donaghy, right? A tennis player or a golfer can individually throw a match. Yes, that can happen. A official can be on the take. That can happen. Yes. But as far as the league's agenda, I don't believe that. There's always these people who think, oh, the league wants this, the league wants that. I've never thought that. And I think I'm in the minority, but I refuse to think that. I mean, just look around. Just look around. If Adam Silver was playing Puppet Master in the NBA office, wouldn't he have the Lakers winning more titles? No. It's like, yeah, he would. Instead, he's getting, Golden State going on a run or Cleveland small markets going on a run. Wouldn't he get the Celtics winning more titles? Yes, he would, and he's not. If Gary Bettman was pulling strings, wouldn't the Red Wings be winning titles again? Wouldn't a Canadian team have won a title for more than 30? They haven't won since 93, I think, a Canadian team. Wouldn't that be happening? But it's not. Instead, markets like Nashville are getting to the title, and Montreal isn't. Major League Baseball, we get the Rays being good, we get the Royals winning titles, and the Yankees haven't won a title in 15 years. If the leagues had an agenda, we would see that stuff happen. But instead, we don't. It bothers the hell out of me. I bothers the hell out of me that people think the leagues are fixed. The only thing I will ever say is I do think when it comes to television, the NFL will use its favorites occasionally, right? And I don't think that means rigged, but like this year, the Packers-Lions and the Seahawks-Rams should have been on the same time in Week 18 because those games mattered to each other. Instead, they didn't. I do think the NFL put Aaron Rodgers in later to put him in an advantageous situation. I do believe that. But I don't think that means for 18 weeks they sat there and rigged, how can we get Aaron Rodgers to the playoffs? And, oh, by the way, it didn't work anyways. So I don't think the league is fixed. Dane in Rochester. Brady, I agree. The teams who win or lose a game are absolutely responsible for the outcome. But mistakes aside, momentum means something, and clunky officiating interrupted that. I can get with you on that, Dane. Officiating plays a part. But it plays just one part in the way that Burrow throws 2 picks, right? That's 2 plays that went against the Bengals. I'm sure, okay, a missed holding call in the second quarter that went against the Bengals is 3 plays. And then there's probably 10 plays that went against the Bengals. And how many of them did the Bengals create on their own? 7 or 8? Steve in Fayston says, I'll stand on that hill with you. I couldn't agree more. Thank you very much, Steve. I've just never been a blame it on the officials guy. Okay? And look, I will be in my living room come baseball season. It'll be April 5th, and a umpire will miss a call for the Red Sox, and I'll sit there in the second quarter or second inning, and I'll throw my hat on the ground and stomp on it and go, what the hell are you looking at, Blue? And the next pitch will be a home run, and the Red Sox will now be down 2-0 instead of out of the inning. I'll be mad about that. But when the game ends, I'll sit here and say, hey, don't hang a curveball. The bullpen couldn't hold the lead, and they went 1 for 9 with runners in scoring position. That's just how I'm wired. Peter in Williston, who's a Bengals fan, says, my guys in Cincinnati just needed to score more than 20 points, not have the refs miss a penalty here and there. It seemed like be the difference. He does. So Peter thinks that the refs played a huge impact. I disagree. It's part of the story. It's not the whole story. 802-585-3026. Well, I'll take your thoughts. I'm not going to commercial break. The Super Bowl is set, right? It's the Chiefs and the Eagles, and it's going to be 2 weeks from yesterday. And I'm here to tell you right now that there are 3 storylines you are going to hear about constantly for the next 2 weeks, right? I have already got right now in front of me the 3 storylines you are going to hear over and over and over again. That's it. You don't need to watch any Super Bowl coverage for the next 2 weeks because I'm telling you exactly what they're going to talk about. Here you go. Number 1, Andy Reid going up against his former team. That's storyline number 1. Number 2 will be the story of the Kelsey brothers. And number 3 will be the story of the black quarterback. Those are the 3 stories you're going to hear about for the next 2 weeks. Okay? Those are the stories, right? We go into Super Bowls always, and we look for threads to pull on. Those are the threads that are going to get pulled on. You're welcome. I'll tell you why you're going to hear about them, right? Andy Reid used to be the coach of the Eagles. He got to the Super Bowl. He never won it. You're going to hear all about his journey, his transformation, why the Eagles won without him, why Andy Reid has done better and evolved without them, what exactly the difference is between Andy and Kansas City versus Philly. All the former players are going to come out of the woodwork and talk about Andy Reid. You're going to turn on ESPN. You're going to turn on Colin Cowherd. You're going to turn on Barstool Sports. And you're going to be talking to Donovan McNabb, and Brian Dawkins, and Brian Westbrook. And they're all going to talk about Andy Reid, what he was like in Philly and what he is now. And God, if we've got guys who played for him in both places, then that guy's going to be front and center. Right? How the Philly fans feel about Andy Reid. Do they regret running him out of town? Does Jeffrey Loria regret firing him? How did the Eagles get better without Andy Reid and ultimately win a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson and get back here with Nick Sirianni? What are the similarities between Sirianni and Reid's coaching style? How has Reid changed? That's going to be story number 1. You're going to hear about it constantly. Texter says, I love seeing Andy Reid face his former team in the Super Bowl. That is awesome. So that's number 1. The number 2 storyline will be the Kelsey brothers. you will not be able to go anywhere without hearing or seeing Travis Kelce of the Chiefs or Jason Kelce of the Eagles. And you will not be able to go anywhere without seeing a ton of their family and friends as well. They are the first brothers to play against each other in the Super Bowl. That's a cool story. Travis Kelce against Jason Kelce, the first brothers to play against each other in the Super Bowl. So expect a boatload of content from their family and friends and everyone who they grew up with. People who played with them in the street, people who played with them in high school, people who grew up next door to them, ex-girlfriends who knew them both. Doesn't matter. If they knew the Kelce brothers growing up, you're going to hear about them. And you're going to hear from them. And oh, by the way, you will not be able to escape their mother, who's going to wear the split jersey. I promise you, because I've already seen it. The Kelce mom is going to have the jersey where on the front side is Kelce 87 in red, and on the back side it's Kelce 62 or whatever in green. Like, you thought in the NLCS it was Austin Nola and Aaron Nola and their family. You thought that was annoying? Well, just wait until you see what comes for 2 weeks of the Kelce brothers and their mother in the split jersey. That's going to be overplayed to death. And 3, the black quarterback story will be everywhere. And it deserves to be everywhere. But it's one we will hear about a lot, right? There have only been 7 black quarterbacks coming into this Super Bowl to start the Super Bowl, right? We've played more than 50 Super Bowls. Only 7 starting quarterbacks have been black. Only 3 starting quarterbacks have ever won the Super Bowl that were black. So we're going to hear about the changing of the mold of the quarterback position, the changing face of the quarterback position, the evolution of the quarterback position. We'll talk about where the quarterback position started. We'll get pioneers like Doug Williams, and we'll talk about where it is now. And race will be part of the Super Bowl coverage. And look, it deserves to be. It is a good story. It is a good sign of progress. It is a good sign of the NFL opening up its eyes to a whole different population or a wholly different portion of the population that wasn't always granted the ability to play the quarterback position. Quarterbacks in high school, college, coaches opening up their minds to it. So it's a good conversation to have. Only 7 starting quarterbacks in Super Bowl history have been black. We're going to talk a lot about that over the next 2 weeks. The 7, by the way, to start a Super Bowl: Doug Williams, Donovan McNabb, Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Colin Kaepernick, Patrick Mahomes, and Steve McNair. So Mahomes has already been there. So this will be the 8th different black quarterback to start a Super Bowl. We could get the 4th different winner if Jalen Hurts were to win it. Mahomes has already won one as well. But those are your stories. Texter says, this is Mike in Ferrisburg. How about I'm a Niners fan? We could complain forever. Instead, there's always next year. We will have a Brock Purdy update, by the way, in the 6 o'clock hour. The Brock Purdy update is, well, I guess it's more optimistic than it could have been. I'll just tell you now. I got a minute. Brock Purdy has a torn UCL, right? The ulnar collateral ligament, that's the Tommy John ligament. Brock Purdy has a torn UCL. The Niners he's going to get surgery, but they're trying to make it not Tommy John surgery. They think he can be back in 6 months, which would have him back by training camp. Or at least, early August. Does it mean that Brock Purdy could play week 1 well and confidently without going through an off season? I don't know. But if it's Tommy John, Brock Purdy would have been out the whole year. So they think they can get him back in 6 months. So tough break for the Niners yesterday. We are going to talk about a new rule I want to see the NFL institute, or actually it's a rule I want the NFL to bring back. We'll do that at about 6:45. Texter says, I have to leave before you talk about George Como, but I want to pass along a story of him. I will tell that story. I will read that text when I talk about George Como at about 6:20. He certainly is a legend. But those are your 3 storylines for the Super Bowl, right? That's it. Those are the storylines. Andy Reid, the Kelce family, and the story and the evolution of the black quarterback. You're welcome. That's what you need to know going into this matchup. That's what you need to know. It's the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. More football conversation to come But first, we'll get CBS News, and then we'll get to the local side of things. UVM Hoops, a win on Saturday against UMBC. I'll tell you what went down at Patrick Gym and why. There were a lot of encouraging things in that Catamount victory. We'll talk about it next here in the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM and FM.
96.1 WDEV FM Warren, 96.5 W243 AT Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury.
Action of Congress, Nichols would still be alive. They want Congress to pass police reforms in his name.
In northern Pakistan, police say at least 28 people were killed when a suicide bomber targeted a mosque in Peshawar. As many as 150 were wounded. The mosque is located inside a police compound in a high-security zone. Officials say most of the worshippers who died were police officers. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is headed to Jerusalem to discuss the worst Israeli-Palestinian violence in years. He spoke after meeting with Egypt's president in Cairo.
There's no question that this is a very difficult moment. We've seen the horrific terrorist attacks in recent days.
Blinken will meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, whose new government includes members opposed to Palestinian statehood. Kansas City and Philly fans are pumped. Their teams are Super Bowl bound. Eagles fans celebrating in the streets after Philadelphia pounded the 49ers 31-7 to win a ticket to Glendale a week from Sunday. The Chiefs beat the Bengals 23-20. KC coach Andy Reid, who used to lead the Eagles, is making a prediction.
I can't wait till Kansas City and Philly clash. It's gonna be awesome, man. What a great Super Bowl it'll be.
Worth it or not? To get an additional booster, CBS's Michael George takes a look.
A third COVID booster reduces deaths among patients with pre-existing conditions by 90%. That's the result of a study published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. Researchers say people with multiple health conditions are much more likely to survive COVID if they have a third dose, compared to people who only have two.
A 1960s TV original is gone.
It's Wednesday.
Her agent confirms Lisa Loring, the actress who played Wednesday Addams in the first screen adaptation of The Addams Family, has died of a stroke after 3 days on life support. She was just 5 years old when she began the role in 1964. Lisa Loring was 62. Deborah Rodriguez, CBS News.
Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance, so you only pay for what you need. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
And when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the line. So what do you do when you don't agree with your search results? Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender by Norton is one of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. We have over a decade of experience in fixing people's search results, and we can help you too. Using cutting-edge approaches, Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. 800-401-6681. That's 800-401-6681.
Our connections make powerful things happen, uniting individuals and communities. We are Rotary. We are people of action. And together, we turn great ideas into reality by accessing our networks, our experience, and the best of ourselves to make a difference. Around the world, Rotary brings leaders together to build new friendships and to solve problems. Like in Austria, where generations work side by side to build sustainable housing and community centers. In India, volunteers run a mobile blood bank to help provide a steady blood supply for their local community. And in Taiwan, people are working hard to get vulnerable citizens the support and services they need. With over 1 million members, we know what people can do when they come together. Take action with us. Find out more at Rotary.org/action.
Hey there, I'm Lance Bass, and this is Chip. And for more than 100 years, American Humane has been protecting animals in times of crisis. And if you're like me, your pet means the world to you, and you want to keep them safe if disaster strikes. American Humane's first responders are always prepared to rescue animals in danger, but you can also help. To learn more about disaster planning and keeping your animals safe, please visit AmericanHumane.org.
Think you know sports better than Brady does? Text in with your thoughts at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. We'll talk a little bit about George Como coming up in about 20 minutes. We'll talk with Bob Emery, the former Plattsburgh State men's hockey coach, who is back in town this weekend coaching at Merrimack. He'll be with us at 6:30 about kind of what it was like to return back to the Champlain Valley. We'll get to UVM hoops in a second, too, but I wanted Ross says, I'm not sure the NFL is rigged, but at important times it points to yes. Look, I don't think the league is rigged, right? I think an individual official can obviously impact things if they want to. But as far as the league having a set agenda, I am not buying that. Tom Brady's not in the Super Bowl. Aaron Rodgers is not in the Super Bowl. The Cowboys didn't make the championship game. The league would have loved the Cowboys in the NFC title game and not Brock Purdy. I promise you that. I promise you that. Do you think that Major League Baseball wants their best team to be the Houston Astros, a team that shares a state, doesn't even have full market coverage? No, I don't think so. Okay, if leagues had agendas, the Lakers, the Yankees, the Celtics, the Canadiens, they would win everything. But they don't. Peter says, as a Bengals fan, do you think not getting to two Super Bowls in a row might save the Bengals some money on Burrow so they can keep the band together? No, I think Burrow is going to get a massive contract. But I do think that the Bengals likely won't trade T. Higgins now. Right, there had been thoughts that the Bengals would trade T. Higgins, and it would be a cap-saving maneuver, and it would. Let me back up a second. There had been a thought that maybe the Bengals would trade T. Higgins as a cap-saving maneuver. Now the fact that they've gotten this close and they haven't won yet, I think they got to just ride it out. So. Tex says, you think of all the allegations of the NFL being rigged, they've never come out and denied it, have they? Well, I don't think the NFL should have to come out and say we are not rigged. I think they just come around and say we're doing all we can to make officiating the best we can, right? The NFL comes out and says we are doing all we can to get the calls right on the field. Like they come out and say things like that, but they shouldn't have to come out and say we're not flat out rigged. All right. I want to get to UVM hoops here before George Como. So UVM basketball beats UMBC over the weekend, 74-68. In doing so, the Cats are now 6-2 inside America East play. I mentioned late last week that I was starting to get a good feeling about this team. Well, that good feeling is coming into focus right now. UVM is halfway through its league schedule. They are in sole possession of first place in the conference. Right, they're nearly halfway through the league schedule. So 6-2 inside league play. They are in sole possession of first place. We talk about the goal for UVM remaining the same. That's winning the regular season conference title. Well, that goal, it's in front of us now. Right, for all the belly aching about the non-conference schedule, for the back-to-back losses against UMass, Lowell, and New Hampshire, this team is right where you'd want to be. 8 games into the conference season, and they now control their destiny. That's all you can ask for. And I told you that the goal should remain the same. The goal is the same. Win the league title, have home court advantage here in the America East Championship, and hopefully have Championship Saturday on ESPN or on ESPN2 right here at Patrick Gym. That's what we want. And that's in play right now. New Hampshire's in second at 5-3. UMass Lowell is 5-4. Bryan is 4-4. UVM is exactly where you'd want to be. It's sole possession of first place. The standard should not change. As for the win on Saturday, UVM wasn't great. They were not great, but they did get a couple of big contributions that really aided in this victory. And I want to give a specific shout out to Aaron Deloney and to Cam Gibson. I want to give them a big shout out for what they did on Saturday. We have spent so much time, I have spent so much time talking about Dylan Penn and Finn Sullivan and their need to kind of shoulder the offensive load. Well, on Saturday, they didn't do that. Dylan Penn had 8 points and Finn Sullivan had just 6. Usually, I don't think UVM can win getting that kind of contribution from those two players. But Deloney and Gibson stepped up in a huge way in their places. Deloney had 13. He hit a couple of threes, which was much needed. Team did not shoot well from 3. Deloney hit 2. And Gibson got double figures again and scored 11. That's a huge contribution, right? I say UVM needs its stars to play like stars, but if you're not going to get that, then you need guys that can step up, and Gibson and Deloney did it. They both got double figures. They replaced the comparative lack of production from Penn and Sullivan, and UVM doesn't win without those contributions. Absolutely huge.
Back the other way, Penn stops at the elbow, kicks it for Cam Gibson, one dribble into the key with the left and gets a bucket. And a timeout taken by UMBC.
UVM doesn't win without that. Right? I've said it how many times? If UVM's going to be good, they need Dylan Penn to step up and carry the load, and they need Finn Sullivan to carry the load. And for the last 2 games, those players that did that. Saturday, they didn't. And UVM still won. Why? Aaron Deloney picked up some of the offensive shouldering, and Cam Gibson picked up the other half. Like Robin Duncan had 20. That was humongous. Trust me. But to get those second and third guys in double figures, that is big time stuff. And I want to go even further on Deloney. I thought he was excellent the other day. Like, yeah, he had the 13 points, but I thought he was excellent. And I give him a ton of credit for his mental toughness. I mean, it's firsthand knowledge that Aaron Deloney has not shot well in conference play. We've chronicled that. But on Saturday, he stayed mentally strong, and he was just a playmaker. And he was a good playmaker on Saturday. I give Deloney a lot of credit because so often guys who are scorers, when they're not scoring or they're not shooting well, they go in the tank. That's just the way it is, right? You've seen players like this before. The guy can get 30, but if the guy, isn't getting 30, he's doing nothing. Deloney's not that guy. He wasn't that guy. He played 27 minutes on Saturday. Good ball handler, made good passes, got into the rim, found guys for wide open shots, hit a couple of threes, hit some free throws at the end of the game to seal the victory. He's the guy I would have wanted at the line late, and he was there. Huge performance from Deloney. I mean, he had been, 7 of 30 or whatever from 3 going into that game in conference play without the Bryant game or excluding the Bryant game. Well, here he is. He's on the court at the end of the game. He's hitting the big free throws. He's making plays. He's being a good ball handler. I thought Deloney was very, very impressive. He could easily go into a shell when you're not shooting well, and he didn't do that. And then I also want to give big credit to Robin Duncan. I mean, they don't win without Deloney and Gibson. They also don't win without Robin Duncan. He had 20 points. It's his first career 20-point game, and the team needed every bit of his points as well. And I am just so impressed by what Robin Duncan is doing. What Robin Duncan is doing is incredibly difficult, and he's not getting enough praise for it. Robin Duncan is playing center for this team, essentially. Robin Duncan is a point guard. Like, Robin Duncan is a point guard by trade, and he is playing center this year. He's learning a new position on the fly. He's guarding guys that he never would have had to guard previously. He's guarding in the post, something he never would have had to do previously. And he looks like a natural at it. I mean, look, it's not easy to learn a new position. Robin Duncan's been in college for 4 or 5 years. It's not easy to learn a new position, and he's doing it, and he looks really good. He gets 20 points. He looks like a natural in the post. His footwork is awesome. His ability to be relentless in going to the basket and getting second chance opportunities is good. He looks like he's been a post player his entire life. 20 points, 8 of 12 from the floor. He shot 8 free throws because he just keeps getting to the bucket. It's just incredibly impressive stuff, and it's selfless stuff. And those are the kind of stories that we love, right? We love those kind of stories as fans. This is a guy who's coming into the season thinking, okay, I'm going to be a starter for the year, finally. I'm going to be a starting point guard, potentially. And here we are. Nick Fiorillo gets hurt, and Robin Duncan ends up in the post, playing a different position on the fly, guarding guys he's never would have guarded before, getting tasked with being a rebounder like he's never been before. And he comes out, and now he's scoring 20 points. He looked really, really good down low. It is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. I do want to nerd out for 1 second on basketball, because I think that UVM has made some really, really nice offensive coaching adjustments the last couple of games that have really, really helped them. Here was Duncan on Saturday about his big scoring output in which he had those 20 points.
Coach and I put me in some great positions to score, and when you have great shooters around you, they really can't help much, because AD, Finn, Dylan, Cam are all such great shooters that I almost have to play me one-on-one down there.
Robin Duncan's right. Credit to the coaching staff. They are putting him in good positions, and they are finding ways to exploit things to help their offense. UVM did not shoot well on Saturday, right from 3. Deloney hit a couple, but they were 6 of 24 from 3. They need to be better there. I've said that over and over again, but the coaching staff found a way to scheme up enough offense, and what they did was they isolated Duncan in the post, and that worked hugely to UVM's advantage. Hugely to UVM's advantage. What Duncan says is just good basketball. Isolate, spread the floor, isolate Robin in the post. If they come to double you, kick it out to a wide open shooter. If they don't double you, which they didn't, then go to work yourself, and that's what he did. He went to work himself, he got to the bucket, and he gets 20 points, and he gets guys in foul trouble, and he tires out your defense. That's just good basketball. That's one of the coaching adjustments UVM has made in the last couple of games, that, hey, we're going to put him in the post and we're going to play through him. And if they're not going to double, then we're just going to let him go. And if they do double, then he kicks to shooters. That's one. The other one came the other day, and this was kind of more applicable the previous 2 games, but let me see. Remember the game against Binghamton and the game against NJIT where Finn Sullivan really dominated, right? Finn Sullivan really dominated. He had 28 points in one game, and he had 20 in the other, and he had 5 threes in one game, and I think 3 in another. It's like Finn Sullivan's been playing really, really well lately. And again, he only had 6 on Saturday, but the 2 games prior, he was awesome. He spoke about a coaching adjustment that UVM had made, which really helped him.
Yeah, I think the coaches talked to me the other day, and they just let me know that they wanted to see how it would look off the ball. And, I've gotten a lot more opportunities to be aggressive. The ball comes to me more in the middle, early beginnings of the shot clock, which gives me opportunity to be aggressive. And then if I don't have anything, kick it out and not force anything. So that's been good. It's been working well.
Yeah, I think that also is really, really smart. And it's a really smart adjustment by John Becker. Again, it didn't matter as much on Saturday against UMBC, but what Finn Sullivan just described, that's kind of what I thought UVM was going to look like all year. So what Finn Sullivan is talking about is he had been playing point guard for most of the season. Now they have really switched Dylan Penn to the point guard position. And what does that do? That does a couple of things that really benefit UVM. One, Dylan Penn is not a three-point shooter. So I never liked the idea of Finn Sullivan bringing the ball up the court and letting Dylan Penn just stand on the perimeter and kind of wait for the ball. That's not his game. He's not a three-point shooter. I like the idea of Dylan Penn bringing the ball up the court, having the ball in his hands, getting momentum, getting ahead of steam behind him, and now he gets to just go to the basket. That's who he is. He likes to play fast. He plays well getting downhill. So what does this adjustment do? He gets the ball at the top of the key. He's got momentum behind him from bringing the ball up the court. And then he's got the freedom to go right or go left, right? He's in the middle of the court, so he's got the whole court in front of him. He's so quick that he can get to the basket easy with this momentum behind him. And if they draw a double team, well, then he kicks out and boom, there's Finn Sullivan, right? Finn Sullivan doesn't have to create his own shot now. He can stand on the corner and wait for Dylan Penn to kick him the ball. Like, that's good basketball also. So good basketball this weekend to get Duncan in the post. Good basketball previously to allow Penn to be a decision maker and a facilitator and a scorer from the top of the key, and allow Finn to have a little less pressure to create offense and just kind of be the beneficiary of it. So good stuff from UVM. They will play Albany. That comes up on Saturday. It'll be the first time that UVM will play Albany this year. They're going to play that game at Hudson Valley Community College. Albany's gym is going through a renovation. I used to coach at Hudson Valley Community College for baseball, so always love seeing games at the home of the Vikings. It's actually a very nice gym. You know, I know you hear junior college campus, but it's a very nice gym, so it'll be a good game for UVM. If you are going down there on Saturday, fun place to see a game. Really fun place to see a game. All right, let's get to who's saying what.
Whoa. What did he say?
They have an expensive but totally unimpressive receiving core, and they have at absolute best, at most charitable, the 9th best quarterback in their own conference.
They really said that?
Every damn thing is politics and race, and I'm losing my mind over it.
It's time for Who's Saying What on the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Who's saying what here today could only be one thing. George Como has been the voice of Norwich Cadets hockey on DEV for 25 years. He's been, he's known, I think, by a lot of people for doing his UVM work. Well, he did 18 years at UVM. He's done 7 more at Norwich. We should be thinking about him doing cadet games more than Catamount games. Today, George Como made a very important announcement. I'll let him tell you in his own words.
Hi, everybody. This is George Como. I'm here to announce something that I hate to be announcing, but all in really is all done. Regretfully, after 25 seasons, I will be ending my time on the Norwich Hockey Cadets broadcasts at the end of this 2022-2023 season. I imagine you've noticed Craig Durham has taken over the play-by-play role of this season, and he will continue in that role. It's easier leaving knowing the program is going to be in his capable hands. So why am I leaving? I'm now in my 9th year dealing with Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's affects different people in different ways, but it does not go away. It gradually gets worse. In my case, it has gradually slowed me down. And in calling hockey play-by-play, the last thing you need is to be slowed down. I still do a good job on other sports, but hockey is just too fast. Then there's the travel issue. I live in Burlington. That means every Norwich home game is a 100-mile round trip, and that's before you add in the away games. Throw in snow, sleet, and freezing rain, and it just gets tougher. I used to say if I hadn't been a sports announcer, I would have been an over-the-road trucker. Not anymore. I am not retiring. I plan to stay closer to home and to continue doing the sports I still do well for as long as I can do them. And we still have the rest of this Norwich season to get through. Hopefully the Cadets will carry us deep into March. A 5th national championship would be a heck of a way to go out. Finally, the thank yous. Way too many to mention here, but to everyone at WDEV, from Ken Squire on down, to everyone at Norwich, especially to Mike McShane and Cam Ellsworth, to their staffs, and to all the great players I've had the pleasure of watching over the many years at Kreitzberg, and to Dave Moody, John Noyes, and Corey Gustafson, 3 of the best color men any play-by-play guy could ever ask for. Oh, and to you Norwich fans, you are the best. Thanks.
That's George Como in his own words, saying he's not retiring, but he is stepping back from Norwich hockey after this season. So I do hope the Cadets can get that 5th national championship and send him out in the way that's fitting of him. It is a well-deserved step back for George, as he mentioned, the travel, his health. He does deserve more time closer to home, but we at WDEV and we, the Norwich fans, and we, the Central Vermont faithful, are going to miss him and his work. He is one of the best people around. He is certainly the best sports broadcaster in the state, and I appreciate all the time that George has given me over the years. George has come on this show before. He's come on other shows that I've been a part of. I had a podcast I did back in the day that was kind of a separate thing, and George gave me 45 or 50 of the most unforgettable minutes in that podcast's history. So George Como is one of the good ones. I appreciate him as a person. I appreciate him as a pseudo co-worker, both under the WDEV umbrella, and I appreciate him as a broadcaster. Texters getting in here on the Napa-Morrisville, Napa-Waterbury text line. Peter says, what a classy announcement from one of, if not the nicest broadcaster on either side of the Mississippi River. Texter says, my mother was in her 80s when she moved from Maine, and we used to bring her to Kreisberg Arena, and she'd listen to games on the radio, or we'd bring her to Kreisberg Arena, and then when she couldn't go, we'd bring her to Kreisberg Arena, or we'd let her listen at home, rather, and George and his work made her feel like she was in the arena. And George has always been good to me, as I said, and I got to say, when I first got to Vermont, I didn't realize what a big deal George Como was, and it's one of my regrets, right? When I got to Vermont for the first time in 2012, right? I've done 2 stints here. I was in Vermont in 2012, and I worked at Norwich, and I was 23, and I was a punk, right? Like most 23-year-olds, I was a punk, and kind of I got told, like, we got this broadcaster here, it's George, he's great, and I didn't realize what a big deal he was, and it's one of my regrets. I'm not saying I didn't respect his work, but I didn't give him the respect as a broadcaster that I should have at the time. And, I've certainly learned since then. So George is going to be on with us here later this week. We're not sure exactly what day and time yet, but I certainly will keep you aware of that when we finalize things. But George Como will be here, and he will be in studio later this week. He is awesome. He's one of the good ones. Tex says he ought to be in the National Broadcast Hall of Fame. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? George is one of the good ones. Like I said, when I got here, I respected his work, but I don't think I respected it enough because I didn't do the research on who exactly he was and where he'd been and the things that he had done. And that was a regret of mine because very quickly, when I took the time to learn it all, I realized how good that he has been. And all the things, look, he called the Marty St. Louis, the hand pass, whatever it was, 96 UVM Frozen 4. George, I know, had a chance to move on to some, quote, bigger and better things and never decided to leave Vermont. And I have a lot of respect for somebody who sticks it out here in the Green Mountain State and makes a name for himself. He is awesome, and I know he will be missed. Let's stick on the local sports front. Bob Emery is a guy that George Como has called a lot of games for in the past. He spent nearly 30 years as the head hockey coach at Plattsburgh State. He's now on the staff at Merrimack College. They were just in town taking on UVM this weekend. I'm going to catch up with Bob Emery. 30 years at Plattsburgh State. Back in the Champlain Valley this weekend. What was it like for him to be back? We'll find out next on the Brady Farkas Show on DEV.
For some people, all they need to know about weather is the high temperature for the day. But if you're one of those people who really wants to understand the hows and whys of weather, especially here in the Green Mountain State, then Roger Hill's Weather Classroom podcast is for you. Some of the topics I'll explore are the types of precipitation, global temperature averages, and tropical cyclones. Roger Hill's Weather Classroom podcast is available at WDEVradio.com, Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Amazon Music.
At Northfield Savings Bank, we celebrate the ways you work and why you work. To build a business, to make a brighter future, to do something that matters. You don't do just one thing in your business. Neither do we. Whatever your size, you have goals for yourself and those around you. Our commitment is helping you get there. Builders, makers, doers. Northfield Savings Bank. Find out more about us at nsbvt.com. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
This week at Macy's, get great Valentine's Day gifts for all your loves, like sparkly finds from our fine jewelry collections, now 35 to 70% off. And shop specials, like 60 to 65% off fine jewelry from Effie, 70% off gold jewelry, and 50 to 70% off lab-grown diamonds. Plus, get 35% off engagement rings from our just-launched brand, Alicia. And bring your gifts home with free curbside pickup or pickup in store today at Macy's. Savings off sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
Marcus, what happened? I was changing my oil and I spilled some on the floor. Oh, well, use these $50 bills to wipe it up. Perfect. Got any more? Yeah, take a couple hundred.
Stop. Instead of using money, use an old rag. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
The world is a constantly changing place, and being informed has never been more important. This is Steve Kathan. WDEV, Vermont's news station, and CBS provide you with up-to-the-minute news and information. Whether it's top and bottom of the hour news, breaking news, or special events, if Vermonters need to know, you can trust that WDEV and CBS will inform you. WDEV, keeping an eye on Vermont, while CBS keeps an eye on the world.
Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. You know, UVM basketball won over the weekend, both men and women, and they were great wins. And UVM women's hockey split their weekend. UVM men's hockey also split its weekend series with Merrimack. They lost 4-2 on Friday, won in overtime on Saturday. And, you know, I love Coach Woodcroft. I love what he's doing at UVM, and we certainly love bringing him on the show. But I got to say, it was also nice to look on the other sideline, in the other coach's box, or in the other, on the other boards, and see Bob Emery. Bob Emery spent nearly 30 years as the head coach at Plattsburgh State. 30 years. He's one of the winningest coaches in NCAA history, men or women, Division I, Division II, Division III, doesn't matter. One of the winningest coaches in NCAA history. He won 2 national championships at Plattsburgh, and he got a chance to come back to the Champlain Valley this weekend, and I know catch up with a lot of people at UVM again, where UVM and Merrimack split the weekend series. Coach Emery, it is good to talk with you again. Thanks for being with us. How are you?
Hey, Brady, you know, it didn't take you long to get your own show with your own name on it after I left. It's pretty good to hear. You're becoming a legend yourself up there in the North Country.
Well, I certainly appreciate that as well. It's good to talk with you again. We've talked, but it's been a minute since we've done it on the radio. And you know, I got a bunch of things I want to ask you, but let's just kind of start out with the feel-good stuff. I understand you coached at Plattsburgh, and being at UVM isn't exactly the same as being back in Plattsburgh. But what was it like to be back at the Champlain Valley?
Well, it was a lot colder, I'll tell you that. You know, walking around, I don't miss that cold, the 10 to 12 degrees colder it was. We were walking around and going to get coffee. And I said to Chris Ross, our volunteer, I'm like, I don't miss this cold up here. But the friendliness of the people in the North Country is always good, you know, and to talk to people that are willing to share their time is always a great thing.
You know, and you guys are playing some really good hockey, by the way. Merrimack came into this weekend number 16 nationally, and it's been a great turnaround for the program in the 4 years now since you've been there. Talk to me a little bit about your experience at Merrimack.
Well, as I told you many times, I love my job here. I love my role. It's great to be in hockey without having the stress and the sleepless nights of a head coach. Mm-hmm. And I'll take that thought with me for the rest of my coaching career. But I've learned a lot here. The one thing that I didn't do in all my years is get a chance to go out and coach under somebody else and see someone else's perspective. And it's always something if I look back, I probably should have done did a lot of research in my years at Plattsburgh as far as attending coaching clinics and watching coaching clinics. But to get out here and work under Coach Bork, who's a tremendous coach, and see the way he does things, I've learned a ton.
You know, I'm not saying you have an ego. I'm kind of thinking of myself in this situation. If I had been doing something at a really high level for nearly 30 years, it would be hard for me to put my ego aside and go and work under somebody else. Was that something that took some getting used to for you, or was it pretty easy?
Not at all. I mean, it was pretty easy for me, I thought. You know, I was just, like I said, not to be the dead horse, I was just happy to get out of the role of head coach. Yeah. Everyone that's a coach is, you know, dying to become a head coach. And I can tell you one thing, and I said this to many people, the only thing good about being a head coach is you make more money. You have way more headaches. You know, leadership is lonely. It's lonely at the top, you know, and every head coach that makes more money than their assistant deserves every penny they have. That's one thing that I learned when I got to the role that I have now. Wasn't hard at all, because I mean, the one thing I did know, there's more than one way to skin a cat. I read enough coaching books and leadership books over the years to know that there's so many different coaching styles out there. There's so many different leadership styles out there, and there's not one size fits all. So it was very easy for me to accept a different coaching style above me, and one that works very good.
You know, the quality of play is the easy answer to this question, but what beyond that, what are you noticing about life in Division I versus life in Division III?
The players are really different. I can tell you, I've had some great players in my time at Plattsburgh. But I can tell you, the players here, they all want to be pros, and they live a different lifestyle. Most of them. Some did it when I was at the Division III level of Plattsburgh, but all the guys here, they work out harder than the kids in D3. They have a better diet. They take care of their bodies better. They put more time into the overall game off the ice and on the ice, you know, and that's what I noticed the most about the difference, you know, in the two divisions. You know, one thing also too is when I was at Plattsburgh, you wear so many hats. You only have two guys doing all the work, but you know, I think the Division III plays like you know, maybe six games less, you know, than the Division I. So, you know, but you have the same amount of guys. You got to recruit the same amount of guys. You want to do the same amount of video, but you don't have the time. Mm-hmm. The one thing I regret most about Division III is you just don't have time to coach. You know, I taught class. I taught a 3-credit class for 20-something years. You know, and here you have maybe 6 people doing the same job you have 2 people do at Division III. Mm-hmm. So you just don't have enough time to coach. Never mind spend time with the players. And our coach is a tremendous communicator, and he spends so much time with our players, and that's something I didn't have a chance to do.
We're talking with former Plattsburgh State hockey coach, a couple national championships in the North Country. Bob Emery is with us. He's now the director of hockey operations over at Merrimack. You mentioned recruiting, and I know in your role, you're doing a couple of different things, but recruiting is one of the things that you help oversee. How difficult is that to kind of navigate now? We've heard so much about the transfer portal, and not only do you have to recruit new players, you have to re-recruit the players you already have, and then you got to go out and figure out which players are leaving their current situations that we want to bring in and their scholarship limits, etc. What is it like recruiting in that environment?
Well, to be honest with you, Brady, I just help with some of the administrative stuff with the recruiting. I don't do much recruiting per se. The director of hockey ops can't recruit. This year, we had an unfortunate situation. One of our assistant coaches passed away in the fall. So I've been able to take on a little bit more responsibility in the recruiting this year and get on the road a little bit. But I don't really have much responsibility in that. The rules are changing going into next year as far as the adding in another coach, and the director of hockey ops can do a little bit more going forward. But so that may change depending on what the head coach wants. But recruiting is a lot different, and I can tell you, every program is different in their recruiting philosophies, and I think that at Merrimack, our guys have done a tremendous job recruiting the younger kid, because recruiting is a lot younger at the Division III level. I mean, at the Division I level opposed to the Division III level, because we have a lot of recruits set up for the next couple of years, and in Division III, recruiting is pretty much year to year. You know what I mean? And and then you have the transfer portal, which is somewhat new. We've done a tremendous job with the transfer portal. Our guys have, not necessarily me, and some of the guys really helped out and get some really mature guys that helped that team this year. So it is different in that way. We have some access here at the Division I level where we can watch every college kid play. His ice time only, so by clicking on his name, so we can watch some guys on video who have entered the portal. So it makes it a little bit easier. But our assistant coaches have seen these guys play before they attended other colleges, so they have some memory of these guys playing junior hockey, and they and seen them play, so they know these guys when they enter the portal already.
I want to switch over to Plattsburgh right now. Plattsburgh, as it stands currently, is 15-4-2, and they're nationally ranked, and they've had a very good season. They've won 6 straight games. Your old understudy, Steve Moffitt, is the head coach over there. I know you're paying attention to Plattsburgh. What do you think about the job he's done?
Well, I knew he'd be a great coach. He's a great person and a hard worker. And I already knew he was a great coach because I worked with him for a long time. I coached him. He was a great player, a hard worker, always wanted to be better as a player. And he's taken that into his coaching role and always trying to be better as a coach. And I knew he'd be a great coach. And he's really done a great job there. They're on a roll right now. They're in first place. They just beat our alma mater on the road last week and beat another first-place team on Saturday night. So they're up top of the standings right now, in the driver's seat, I would think, in the league. I'm not totally sure on that, but I think they're in the driver's seat. They do have a trip to Buffalo and Fredonia this weekend, which is always a tough trip. It's like an 8-hour trip from Plattsburgh out there. But if they can take care of business in the next 4 games, I think they're in the driver's seat maybe to host the SUNYAC tournament and get that back to North Country, which is a tremendous feat because the league has gotten so much better over the years, and that's a tribute to all the SUNYAC coaches. But there's no nights off in that league anymore, for sure.
Your 2 national championship teams, or rather, let me see here. Your national championship team from 2000-2001 was honored just a couple of weeks ago at Plattsburgh. What did that mean to you?
I was really happy for those players. We had a bunch of great guys there. It was really unique year for us. We had a lot of good players, a great goalie returning, and we started off the season and with a big hazing incident, Brady, and we had a bunch of players suspended. So, and I think adversity can really help a team, and I think that was the year we had a lot of adversity, and adversity really helped our team. And when we had some bumps in the roads at the end, we were familiar with facing adversity. It really helped us. And, we went out to RIT and they hosted the Final Four, and we were very successful on the first night because of our goalie. Nick Sundberg, who ended up signing with the New York Rangers after the season. But he played great in the first night against Wisconsin Superior, and then we ended up playing an undefeated team in RIT in the championship game, and a team that hadn't lost all year, which did not face enough adversity, and we were able to jump on the lead right away, and there was no turning back. But we had a great bunch of kids who will turn into a great bunch of guys now, and it's really good to see them back in Plattsburgh. I wasn't able to make it, but I saw all the pictures and all the festivities, and they seem to be having a great time, and they deserved every minute of that. They went through there to bring that national championship home for sure, and I was happy for them all to get back together and be honored there last weekend.
2 national championships at Plattsburgh, one of the winningest coaches in NCAA history. Bob Emery, former Plattsburgh State head coach, nearly 30 years at the helm of the Cardinals, and now he's found a new role at Merrimack at the Division I level, and has that squad out to a national ranking and a great season thus far. And Coach, congratulations on the success you've had thus far. I could do this all day, but I'll let you run, and we'll look forward to seeing how your team fares in the Hockey East playoffs soon.
All right, Brady, thanks. Good checking in, and good luck with your show and your podcast and everything you got going up there.
Thank you very much, Bob. We'll talk soon.
All right, Brady.
Absolutely. There goes Bob Emery. Really love talking with him. Bob Emery is a great guy. And I've told him this before, so it's no great secret. I wasn't a huge fan of Bob Emery when I was in college, right? Because I went to Oswego, and Plattsburgh and Oswego are bitter rivals. I wasn't a big fan of Bob Emery, right? The slick back hair, all the success, the national championships. Then when I got up here and I got to know him, he's another great guy, right? Like George Como, great guy. Bob Emery, great guy. And I root for Bob and everything that he does. Just wasn't rooting for him this weekend all the time when they played UVM. So I'm happy it ended with a split, right? And I'm happy it ended with a split. Texter says, awesome interview. Thanks. Other texter says, Coach Emery is great. Love hearing his kind of revealing differences between Division I and Division III. I thought there was some pretty juicy stuff in there too. Not juicy in terms of controversial, but like really good, honest, transparent conversation. And I think we're going to cut it up, and maybe we'll get to more of it tomorrow or throughout the week. But I love what Bob Emery had to say. He's right. When you're at the Division III level, like, I could relate to what he says, right? Sometimes you have so many things on your plate, you can't do the thing you love to do, right? Like Bob Emery's like, I couldn't coach that much hockey at Plattsburgh. You're recruiting, you're teaching, you're doing everything, scheduling, gear, buses, officials, ice time, you're doing all of it. And sometimes you just can't do the thing that you love to do. And that was coach hockey. I can relate to that. I'll tell you a little bit more about it this week as well. But Bob Emery is great. 2 national championships, nearly 30 years. And look, Bob Emery is not old. Bob Emery is under 60 years old. Like, he got the Plattsburgh job at like 24 years old or something like that. 25. Like, he retired from Plattsburgh at like 55. And then now has been at Merrimack for 4 years. He's under 60 years old. I mean, that's an incredible life of hockey that he's lived, right? He played pro for a little bit. Canadiens organization, Nordiques, Bruins, 30 years coaching Division III, now Division I. Bob Emery is good people and good hockey people. It is the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, WDEVradio.com. Brock Purdy's out at least 6 months, it looks like, with a torn UCL. Based on what we saw yesterday in the 49ers-Eagles game, I want the NFL to bring back one very important rule. I'll tell you what that is next here on DEV.
It's that time to start planning for your 2023 maple sugaring season, and time to partner up with the Miles Supply Company and CDL Maple Sugaring Supplies. Find all your sugar house needs to get you geared up and ready to boil Vermont's liquid gold. Check out all the CDL inventory, tubing, mainline, fittings, vacuum pumps, wood splitter, and processor available to rent, and much more. The Miles Supply Company and CDL Maple Sugaring Supplies on Boynton Street, your local sugar house resource. The Miles Supply Company, family-owned and building relationships since 1954.
Granite, known for its strength, lies hidden deep in the earth and reveals itself only when the softer layers are worn away. At Rock of Ages, they dig deep to unveil the strength and toughness of the granite that lies below. Just like these college athletes dig deep to reveal the power within themselves. Rock of Ages is a proud supporter of Norwich hockey and reminds you that nothing is stronger or more beautiful than buried granite. from Rock of Ages. Visit them on the web at rockofages.com.
Streaming only on Peacock. From the mind of Brian Johnson, the writer-director of Knives Out.
Miss Gale, you've got this gift. He's always known the truth.
I only know if something is alive. The real trick of it is to figure out why.
Natasha Lyonne is Charlie Cale.
It wasn't an accident. I think there's been a murder. You watch too much Dateline.
A new 10-part mystery series.
Rolls on my fender. I gotta keep moving. I have been kind of a death magnet.
Poker Face. Streaming now only on Peacock.
And now another no-brainer money-saving tip from Progressive.
Marcus, what happened? I was changing my oil and I spilled some on the floor. Oh, well, use these $50 bills to wipe it up. Perfect. Got any more? Yeah, take a couple hundred.
Stop. Instead of using money, use an old rag. And here's a better tip from Progressive on how not to waste money. Don't pay too much for car insurance. Drivers who switch and save could save hundreds. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary.
Hi, this is Anson Tebbets, co-host of For the Birds, heard Saturdays on WDEV. Each week, Chip Darmstadt and I discuss bird sightings, bird counts, and activity at your feeder. You also can listen anytime to podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify, and Amazon Music. Join us Saturdays at 7:30 and 12:15 For the Birds. 28 years on WDEV AM and FM and streaming at WDEVradio.com.
New England Municipal Resource Center, Emery, with a belief that local businesses like WDEV build strong communities.
As Vermonters, we know that so much depends on the weather. When you need a reliable local weather forecast, it's literally at your fingertips with the WDEV weather phone. Locally dial 244-1172 or toll free at 1-800-585-1211. Roger Hill's weather forecast is just a phone call away on the WDEV weather phone, 244-1172 or 1-800-585-1211.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. Jazz with George Thomas is coming up next. No Eye on the World with John Batchelor tonight. We're going to have ESPN Radio beginning at 9 o'clock. So our guy Freddie and Fitzsimmons will be on. Freddie Coleman. We love listening to Freddie. So that'll be at 9. What we watched yesterday in the NFC title game was not good for the sport of football. And as a result, the NFL should bring back an old rule that you've likely forgotten about. And I had forgotten about it as well. The NFL should bring back the third quarterback rule. Let me give you a little perspective on this here, a little history lesson. I think it went away in 2011, but back in the day, until 2011, you could dress 45 players on game day, and then you could have a third quarterback, an emergency quarterback, that did not count against your 45. So you had 45 players dressing, and then you had a dressed third quarterback that didn't count as part of that 45. And what would happen is if you lost both of your quarterbacks, 1 and 2, you could go to the extra quarterback, to the third guy, even though he wasn't a part of your game day 45. The catch was, if you went to the third quarterback, you couldn't go back to the other 2. Like, that was the kicker, I believe. If you went to the third stringer, the non-active roster guy, you could not play 1 and 2. So, like, you had to be confident that 1 and 2 were not coming back in the game if you were going to go to 3. So after 2011, what the NFL did was they said, look, we're going to allow 46 guys to dress now. We're going to allow an extra player here. And people were happy about that, right? That's another job for a guy, and another guy getting a game check. But in doing that, they said, okay, the third string quarterback guy, we don't have that anymore. Because if you want to use a third string quarterback, well, just make one active and let him be part of your 46. And most teams have decided to carry an extra DB or an extra linebacker or an extra wideout. So they don't carry the third quarterback. They should bring back the third quarterback rule. what we watched yesterday was not good for football, right? That was almost an unwatchable NFC title game because, look, you're down Brock Purdy, you're 3. You're down Josh Johnson, you're 4. And then, they were seriously talking about letting Christian McCaffrey run the Wildcat. Brock Purdy came back in the game. He could not throw. He threw 2 passes when he came back in. They were both like dump-offs and screens. That was an unwatchable game. If there had been the third quarterback rule, then we could have seen somebody else that knows the playbook and can throw. That rule should exist. And it seems fairly easy to bring that one back. Again, I get it, right? When they gave you the 46th guy, they took out. Yesterday was bad for football. I watched yesterday because it's football and that's what I do on Sundays and it's the title game and I got to talk about it. But we haven't talked hardly at all about Niners and Eagles. Why? There wasn't lots to talk about. Why? Because nothing happened because there were no quarterbacks for San Francisco. It was nearly an unwatchable game. And if the NFL brings back the third string quarterback designation rule, then there's an opportunity to avoid that situation of using a running back as your quarterback potentially. All the Niners could do in the second half was run the football after Johnson got hurt, with 13 minutes left or whatever. It was unwatchable. Bring back the third quarterback rule. And again, that's a rule I hadn't thought about in a long time, but it seems too easy to bring it back. All right. By the way, the show is brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school. They're online at prodrivercdl.com. That's prodrivercdl.com. Class A, Class B, Class C, passenger and advanced skills training. They can help you out everywhere. prodrivercdl.com. Breaking news here from the news world, the news and entertainment world. Cindy Williams, who played Shirley opposite Penny Marshall in Laverne and Shirley, she died today at the age of 75. Maybe Jazz with George Thomas can play a little Shamil, Shamazel, Hassafef Incorporated and the Laverne and Shirley theme song in her honor. So maybe we can get that going. I've made my request to George through the glass. We'll see if he obliges there. But Cindy Williams dead at the age of 75. Thank you to Bob Emery for stopping by. Thank you to George Como for the special announcement and your 25 years of service to Norwich University Athletics. So we will miss him as the voice of the Cadets after this season, but we will talk to George in studio coming up later this week. Go download the full show podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and also available always at WDEVradio.com. Tomorrow, we'll talk with UVM basketball player Finn Sullivan. We'll hear a little bit from Coach Brennan as well. We'll talk a lot of Catamount hoops tomorrow as they are, again, in sole possession of first place in the America East. Jazz with George Thomas is next.
Winter's here, which means cold temperatures and sometimes icy sidewalks and roadways. These conditions